What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Midterm Rental Show. I'm your host, Bailey Kramer, and in this video, we're going to talk about why it feels almost impossible to win right now in the short-term rental and Airbnb game, and most importantly, what you should be doing instead. Because here's the reality. If you've been running an Airbnb for the past 2 to 4 years, you probably remember the days when it was super easy. You could basically just throw some furniture on a property, take some photos, and the property would just book out. You had super great occupancy, high revenue, high nightly prices, and you'd get 5-star reviews left and right. You probably felt untouchable, and trust me, I've been there. But now you might find yourself constantly lowering your prices, watching your occupancy rate go down, and you might even see new competition entering the market. And you're probably thinking, what the heck is happening? And I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened. What happened is the game has officially changed. So let's go ahead and break down the 5 biggest reasons why Airbnb feels so hard right now. And then I'm gonna show you the super easy pivot you can make to boost your occupancy and make a ton more money. Okay, so reason number 1 is supply has exploded. And it's currently at an all-time high. Back in the COVID days, everyone saw the YouTube videos and the TikToks of everybody making money on Airbnb. So because of that, people were buying houses left and right, borrowing money however they could from their HELOCs, or doing second home loans. People were doing rental arbitrage, and most of these properties are still live today. Plus, many more properties have come to the market since then. But one of the problems is travel demand has normalized. So instead of you competing with maybe 60 or 100 other properties in your market, you might be competing with now hundreds of properties, or depending on the market, thousands of properties. And when that happens, price becomes the only differentiator. Because if there's hundreds of good options in a market for guests to rent, then they're gonna be looking at the lowest price one out of the ones that just look good. And that is a race to the bottom. And unfortunately, that is what's happening in most markets right now. Okay, reason number 2 is guests booking behavior. In today's market, guests are booking insanely last minute, not months and months and months in advance. And why is that? Because they know they have leverage. They can see on Airbnb that there's tons of availability, and they know that there's oversupply. So they wait. There's no incentive to book. They've got plenty of options and no time crunch in front of them. And what a lot of them are doing is just swooping in a couple days before they're actually wanting to stay in the area, and they're just booking the cheapest property that looks nice. And what does that do to you as a host? It completely destroys predictability, because you can't really forecast revenue, you can't plan, you're basically just hoping. You're lowering your prices on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and hoping that someone books your property for the weekend. And if you're one of the people in your market who does get a booking, it's not even at the rate that you wanted or the rate that you need to actually make serious money. And trust me, I've been there. That feeling of, well, at least it's something. Well, that is not how you build a true predictable business. Reason number 3 is because of Airbnb's fee shift. Airbnb now charges the hosts a 15.5% fee and charges the guests a 0% fee. So yes, technically smart hosts are just increasing their prices to compensate for the fact that we now have to pay a 15.5% fee to Airbnb. But the problem is the guests aren't thinking about the fact that you're paying that fee. They're thinking, okay, I just paid, let's just say $500 per night, and they're determining whether it was worth the $500 or not, even though you only received like $420 out of that $500. So the guest is evaluating the experience based on this new high price. And unless your property is absolutely insane with crazy amenities and a just jaw-dropping design, your price probably feels expensive, which basically leads to your guests leaving more 4-star reviews and less 5-star reviews. And as you know, reviews are everything for Airbnbs. And just one bad review alone can absolutely crush your listing. Reason number 4 is regulation risk. Again, this probably isn't a shocker, but cities are cracking down. Some cities are even banning non-owner occupied Airbnbs. Other cities are capping permits, and other cities are charging a ton of money for licensing fees. And when your business depends on city council meetings, That is risk. And when your investment strategy can be changed by a vote, that is risk. Even if you're compliant today and you're following all the rules, that can change. And there's nothing you can really do about it. So that uncertainty alone makes scaling a short-term rental business a lot less desirable and a lot harder. Okay, reason number 5, and this one is absolutely huge. Guest expectations are through the roof. If you're launching a new Airbnb today, here's what the bare minimum looks like. Hot tub, murals, a game room, pickleball court, fire pit, and everything being Instagrammable. But even if you add all that, now you have to maintain it. And that is expensive. I've seen hosts refund hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars because the hot tub wasn't working or the water wasn't clean enough. I've seen guests complain about leaves falling on the outdoor pickleball court. And I've seen this also lead to 3 and 4 star reviews because all these beautiful amenities weren't as great as they look like in the picture. So with all these amenities, you're not just running a rental property, you're running a hospitality experience. And it is exhausting. So what is the solution? So instead of competing for 3-night weekend stays, what if you competed for 60-night stays? And instead of 12 turnovers a month, what if you just had 1 turnover a month? Or maybe even some months, 0 turnovers. And instead of 300 competitors in your market, what if you had 15? This is where midterm rentals come in. So for those who don't know, a midterm rental is simply where you rent out your property for a minimum of 30 nights. And sometimes you can get bookings that are 3 months long, 6 months, and I've even had a stay as long as a year and a half. But the tenant base is completely different. You're not competing against other properties for vacationers. You're serving a necessity demand. People like traveling nurses, traveling construction crews, corporate relocation clients, families displaced from their home, and people in between home purchases. These people need housing, and they need it for an extended period of time. So they're looking for clean, furnished, safe, flexible housing. They don't care about the murals, they don't care about the hot tubs, and they don't care about the crazy amenities. They care about being in a safe neighborhood with fast Wi-Fi and a fully stocked kitchen. That's what makes them happy. And here's the best part. There are way fewer hosts serving this demographic than there are doing short-term rentals. And I'll prove it to you. If you go to Airbnb right now and search your market for a 2-night stay in the next week or 2, you'll see an insane amount of competition. But if you do that same search and extend it to a 60-night stay, you'll see that there are a lot less properties available. And I call that opportunity. So I started in short-term rentals about 5 or 6 years ago. And then a couple of years ago, I made the shift to midterm rentals. And I now own 10 units that I run exclusively as midterm rentals, and I am the sole owner of. So let me give you a real example from my actual portfolio. I have a property that rents for $2,800 per month on average. And if I ran it as a short-term rental, maybe I'd gross $3,000 or maybe a little bit more on a great month. But that would also come with a ton of turnovers every single week, constant guest communication, cleaning coordination, supply restocking, damage risk, and managing all these reviews. But instead, I rent it out for 60 days straight, or sometimes even longer. So I have 1 turnover, 1 guest, predictable income, lower stress, and sometimes even if a guest books, a lot of the times they're gonna actually extend their stay. I've had midterm rental guests stay as long as a year and a half while still paying my high monthly rates. And I know some of you guys are thinking, Bailey, won't I make less money? And if you do it incorrectly, then maybe. But if you do it correctly, then no. Because you're basically trading slightly lower peak season revenue for dramatically higher stability and lower expenses. Like less cleaning fees, less furniture replacement, less refund risk, less vacancy panic, and you're trading it for stability and higher profit margins. So Airbnb as a whole isn't dead in 2026. But the easy mode, like it was a few years ago, yeah, that's no longer here. So the people that are actually winning right now in the short-term rental game are the people who are doing ultra luxury or ultra unique. Everybody else is just fighting for scraps. Meanwhile, midterm rental operators like myself, we're quietly working in the background. It's not flashy, it doesn't go viral, it's just consistent. So if you already own a short-term rental and it's struggling, you don't need to sell it. You don't need to panic. You might just need to pivot. Switch your minimum night stays to 30 nights to start and watch what happens. And if you want to learn my midterm rental strategy way more in depth, I talk about midterm rentals all over my podcast and YouTube channel. And I built an entire rental portfolio doing the strategy. And I have also helped other investors do the same. So subscribe, watch my other videos, listen to my podcasts, or reach out to me on Instagram if you're serious about getting into midterm rentals. Because while everyone else is competing in a race to the bottom, smart investors are quietly building midterm rental machines like myself that's a lot more stable and profitable. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.